So வணக்கம் நண்பர்களே. So in a class we have to discuss from the previous section continuation. So laser தான் நம்ம பார்த்துருக்கோம். So the laser we have to covered some of the important topics from introduction of laser, then stimulated emission, then population inversion. From this continuation we discuss about ruby laser. Okay. So then before going to that topic, then we have to recall 2 to 3 minutes what we discussed in the last classes. Okay. So already we have to discuss what is meant by a laser, then light amplification by stimulated, most important word, stimulated emission of radiation. Okay, sometimes idhe kekkalam. Okay, so then what are the characteristics of laser? Then characteristics of, what are the characteristics? So highly monochromatic, then coherent, then highly directional, then high intensity. Okay, so இதெல்லாமே ஏற்கனவே நம்ம டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கோம் with MCQ. Okay, so அது பார்க்காத நண்பர் டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன் லிங்க் கொடுக்குறேன், இல்லை சேனல் பிளேலிஸ்ட்டில் இருக்கும். So next point, then what are all the basic component, that is the important, then basic components of laser. Then what are the basic components? So one is active medium, then second one is pumping source, then third one is optical resonator. Okay, that is cavity. Okay, so then how transition occurred? Then photon of energy, that is E2 minus E1, then h nu. Okay, then we know that then spontaneous emission, then atom in the excited state then emit photon randomly. But stimulated emission, then how to define stimulated emission? Then most important, then stimulated emission, then incoming photon then is equal to h nu. In the excited atom it emit another photon. Okay, then both photon have same frequency, same direction, same phases and same energy. Okay, then we have to discuss elaborately. Okay, எல்லாமே எப்படி இருக்கும்? சேமாக இருக்கும். that should be a same frequency, then same direction, then same phase, then same energy. Okay, next population inversion, most important, population inversion. So in normal the atom in the ground state, that should be N1 is greater than N2. N1 is greater than N2 for normal. For laser, then N2 is greater than N1 for condition for laser. So already we have to discuss. So the population inversion is achieved by pumping. So the different types of pumping are there. Okay, so then pumping population inversion is most important in metastable state. What is the lifetime of the metastable state? That is 10 power minus 3. Okay, so the more number of atom accumulates in the metastable state only. Okay, so these are all the topics we have to discuss in the last 2 to 3 classes. Then today we discuss about ruby laser. Okay, so there are different types of laser. Okay, that is the ruby laser, then helium neon laser, then CO2 laser. Okay, so from that different types of laser we have to discuss first one, ruby laser. This is the first type. And then ruby laser is also called as a, which one is solid state laser. Okay, then ruby laser also called as ruby crystal. Okay, so here what all the material we have to use? There should be an aluminum oxide doped with chromium. Okay, that is the important. So then upcoming MCQ we have to discuss those things. Okay, so then ruby laser is a solid state laser that use a ruby crystal, that should be aluminum oxide doped with chromium, that is active medium. Okay, here this one is active medium. Okay, then what are the essential compound for laser? First one is active medium, next pumping source, then third one is optical resonator. There should be a cavity. We have to use two mirror, one is fully reflecting mirror, another one is a partially. Okay, then upcoming classes we have to discuss one by one. Okay, here active medium is this one, but in this one the ruby laser is a solid state. Then here optical pumping, next one is optical pumping. So it's worked based upon optical pumping and it produced a red light, most important. Okay, idoda wavelength pinnala varum MCQ la, then we have to see that one by one. Okay, so then ruby laser is a solid state laser. Okay, this question. Okay, so from that first question itself I have to explain here. Active medium in ruby laser is then chromium 3+ doped aluminum oxides. Okay, so this one active medium we have to use in ruby laser. Okay, then it works based on their optical pumping and produce a red light. Okay, so then wavelength for red light 694.3 nanometer, most important. Okay, so what is the wavelength of ruby laser? So from the previous slide we have to explain which one is then 6943. Option B is correct. Okay, so it is in red region, it is the standard value. Okay, this is the standard value. So then ruby laser is a continuous or pulse ray. It should be a pulse ray, most important. Okay, because of the ruby laser is a 3-level system. Okay, 3-level system. Okay, it is difficult to achieve the population inversion, so that only we have to get pulsed one. Okay, so if you use 4-level system means it should be a continuous, but in ruby laser la, then we have to get only pulsed. Okay, then ruby laser is a pulsed, then ruby laser is a 3-level system. We have to remember these cases. Okay, so how many number of energy levels in ruby laser? Levels in ruby laser only 3. Okay, that is 1, 2, 3, that is E1, E2, then E3. Here E1 rather which one state? Then E1, that is ground state. Okay, then E2 rather, that is the most important. Then E2 is called as metastable state. Okay, here E1 என்றது ground state, then E2 என்றது metastable state. E2 என்றது metastable state, then E3 என்றது maybe excited state or pumping level. That is most important. So in ruby laser la, the energy level is 3. Okay, so these are all the important point and MCQ we have to remember that. Okay, so then most of the basic question only we have to ask in laser. Okay, then similar way, then upcoming classes we have to discuss for then helium neon laser and CO2 laser. So in our syllabus only we have to give an helium neon laser only. Okay, that don't give CO2 laser. Then after that a comparison and applications for ruby laser and helium neon lasers. Okay, so then upcoming classes we have to discuss one by one. Okay, so then more or less then upcoming 2 to 3 days we have to complete laser. Next we move on to the next unit. Okay, then similarly If you want to join test batches or regular classes, then you have to download the app from the Google Play Store. The link will be given in the description. If you want to join test batch, you have to download the app. Okay. Then meanwhile, if you have any doubt, you have to ask your question in the comment section or also WhatsApp. All the link given in the description. We have to meet in the next classes. Okay. Thank you.